Welcome back. You saw the title of this video. We're going to talk about how to look better on video. We've got Emily London Miller. She's an amazing portrait photographer. We're going to compare looking amazing on photos and video and how it applies. This is going to be awesome. I've made other tutorial videos that focus more on the equipment side of things, like how to make a better quality video, but now we're talking about, the subject or the talent that's in the video and how to make them or us look better on video. Let's kind of go with hair or with makeup. What are some things that we can do to look? We'll talk about it first from the photography point of view because that's where you're really skilled, and then we'll apply that to video.
Okay, cool. So hair and makeup is kind of an interesting thing because I know a lot of your audience is probably men, right? Mm-hmm. So when I have a man come into the studio, we have a hair and makeup artist who's going to make their hair look awesome. In your case, maybe a little powder on the top of your head. What did they do with your makeup wise? Did they just do powder and that was it?
There's changing of skin color a little bit, especially around my neck.
A little bronzer.
I think that was the first time I've ever had makeup.
Okay.
In my life.
And it wasn't like they were putting full makeup on him or anything like that. Yeah. So just a little bronzer where you're really extra fair. But otherwise with men, hair and makeup obviously is basically chapstick, making sure that you have enough moisturizer that you don't look flaky or anything like that. And, hairstyling, of course, can be important with men too. For women, it's almost like transformational. You can become a very different version of yourself. Some women are very pared down in their hair and makeup normally, and they don't necessarily want to come across as uber dressed up, which completely makes sense. But at the same time, even if you're that woman, you definitely want to have certain makeup for camera. Okay, so the main things are skin. So you want your skin to look really even. So the foundation that your makeup artist, or if you're going to be doing it yourself, you'll want to use an HD foundation. And it has to be like the exact right color. So you want to get support and help with that to make sure that that's on point. If it's just a little bit off in color, that's probably the thing that you hate about makeup and why you don't wear it at home, right? And then powder is pretty important because, a lot of times with photo shoots, there are going to be lights and the lights get a little hot. And so you don't want to have any shininess, especially in areas that aren't flattering to have shine. And so powder is important. And defining your eyelashes is a pretty big deal. So I always, in my studio on women, put false lashes. And that's kind of even for the women who are super pared down. That would basically be our main thing. We would have some very beautiful neutral lip gloss and blush, and that's it. And then
that's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Also, eyebrows are a big deal. So all of those things are the core things. And then obviously women who wear lots of makeup, we just add more basically eyeshadow or lipstick, those two areas where you can get extra color. But the foundation aspects or the skin evening blush and what types of products you're using is pretty consistent.
Okay, and as you're describing that, I don't think that there's any difference that there would be from photography to video. I mean, I would see those principles applying the same.
Mm-hmm. Well, so one thing that I bet would be a little bit different is for hair. So with video, obviously we can't use like a blow dryer on somebody's hair to get them to be all fabulous and incredible. And also you don't necessarily want the hair to be sprayed so that it's still like a helmet.
Okay.
So you do want to have a little bit of a softness to the hairstyle or things like that. Also in photos, we can maybe create a little extra artistic element. When we've got the fan blowing, it's also like getting in your face sometimes, and we have the luxury of being able to just sneak somebody's hand in and quickly get the hair out of the eyes or stuff like that, which you can't do in video. So it has to be low maintenance enough in video that you're not having to constantly fix the hair or touch the hair, right? So those things are a little bit different with hair and makeup, with hairstyling versus video and photo. But I will say volume is definitely your friend. I know that sometimes people think of big hair as like very southern or something that's not necessarily their style, but it makes a big difference in camera because the way that 3D is translated into camera flattens things to a point that anything behind gets quite small and anything close to the camera is larger. And so the hair at the back of your head suddenly visually on camera looks like it's completely gone. And so if you don't have volume in your hair, your head will look really small. And one of the drawbacks of having your head look small in camera is that by default it makes your body look a little bit bigger. So that's one of those things that I always say, just trust me, a little bit extra volume in person than what you're comfortable with will translate really nicely in camera.
It's good to know. I won't be able to apply that personally, but for everyone watching who does have hair. Okay, so now let's talk about lighting. And I've gotten a lot of advice from you on lighting. What's important in lighting for photography?
Okay, so one of the things I always hesitate to talk a little bit about lighting because it can get very technical, and the intentions about why you're lighting the shot or what you're wanting the image to look like all factor into what kind of lighting you'd use. But that said, for just the regular person who is maybe setting up their own cell phone camera to take a video of themselves or get a selfie, or even to create Facebook Live content and things like that in their own business, I would say there's nothing better than window light. So I usually say turn off all the lights in the space so that you don't have any ambient like orange glow from the incandescent lighting, and just get really near to a window so that the window is just giving you this beautiful soft diffused look. If you're working with a videographer or a photographer who knows more about light, they might obviously do things a little bit differently, but I'm gonna say, yeah, there's nothing better than facing a window. If you're backlit,
then that's the opposite.
It doesn't necessarily work.
Okay, so now talking about the difference between photography and video, you obviously specialize in beauty photography or portraits. In video, you can use lighting for a whole bunch of different things, whether it's a scary movie or suspenseful or it's action or something, and the character might not be portrayed as beautiful. That might not be the intent of the scene. But for those of you watching this video, you are the product, you're the service, you're the influencer. So essentially, you want to look your best. You want to be beautiful. That's part of your brand. We'll have a lot of other episodes that go into the technical aspects of lighting and how to get that good soft lighting. But that's definitely a good first place, is just face a window, even if you're just doing a selfie video on your phone.
I've actually done a presentation where I was given a chance to speak for like 20 minutes at a networking event, and I walked into the room and all of the windows were on the side wall, and my presentation was going to be facing towards this direction from the side windows, and I remember just looking at it and saying, nope, and walked in, changed the position of where I was going to be speaking, because all I had in that environment was the natural light. There wasn't any kind of lighting or stage. And so that gave me a chance to say, oh yeah, I want the window light on me so that I can look my best for this presentation. I don't want to have side light, which kind of can look a little rugged. So yeah.
That's awesome. Okay, so I cheated and I looked at Emily's notes about leaning towards the camera. So we're not.
Neither of us are very comfortable in our relaxed leaning
So
back
why is that important? Why is it important to lean towards the camera?
Sure.
And let's talk first about photography.
Okay, so on a psychological level, leaning in is obviously more engaged, connected. Okay. Leaning back is going to be disconnected. In fact, sometimes gives people the chance to close off their body language. And so having to lean in forces that body language to give you that feeling of being engaged.
Yeah.
Okay. But also on an aesthetic level, basically leaning back, I mentioned before the principle of anything further away from the camera gets smaller and everything closer gets larger.
Okay.
So right now, what's closer to the camera is my chest, and if I was a little bit more full-figured, my belly, my booty, and not my face. My face is getting smaller visually. And the difference in, how much that is being affected is quite a bit more significant the closer you are to the camera. Okay, so if you're holding a selfie that's arm's length away, this is going to be extremely exaggerated. That's why you'll see a lot of women are holding their camera up here. The face is really close, body's really far, right? Okay, so that's similar principle. Rather than, having to change the angle of everything, we'd be looking at the floor if we had our camera up there, right? Then you want to be able to say, this is the angle of the space that I like, and instead of changing the camera angle, we change our angle and come towards the camera.
All right, so to talk about this with video, we're obviously applying that here, and that we're sitting up, we're leaning forward, we're attempting to have good posture. There's probably a little bit more flexibility because with photography, you're wanting to catch that exact moment. And so you've got, you're perfecting everything, tilting the head, making sure you've got the right expression. With video, if we went frame by frame, there'd be some that's like, okay, that's good. Ooh, look, just because the way that our mouth moves when we talk and whatnot. So there's a little bit more flexibility, I'd say, but in general, leaning in, leaning towards is a good idea. All right, and that leads into the next point of kind of how you hold your head, how you hold your neck. Very important in photography. Let's start there.
Okay, so this kind of goes into posture a little bit. So a lot of times if your posture is not awesome, the way that your spine is curved forces your head to balance backwards. And so people with not good posture are often sitting like this, which I know is not awesome. And I want to point out a few of the things that are not awesome about it, and then I'm going to teach you how to get out of it. So, cool. First of all, I'm sitting in my relaxed posture. This is also definitely applies if I'm leaning forward in a comfortable posture. My throat is dominant. So you'll see it's really bright, and it's also just as wide as my face. Okay? So if I get into the correct position, you'll see that my throat becomes quite secondary, and it's my face that's primary and the most important part. Okay? Also, in this position, you'll notice that there's not a ton of definition at the bottom of my face here, and that my eyes are slightly closed. So if I get into the correct position, you'll see my eyes open right up, because now they're looking straight out of my face instead of down my face. Okay? Mm-hmm. So the way that we fix it is by, you kind of imagine me lengthening the U at the back of your neck. And you did it exactly right. But most people, when I say that, they start by bringing the bridge of their nose up to the ceiling. So you don't bring the bridge of your nose to the ceiling. The bridge of your nose stays to the camera. It's the crown of your head that comes to the ceiling, and then you push your face forward. Okay, so you could still have terrible posture and fix that part of your face. So it's not all about your spine, but just being in bad posture naturally forces your head back if you're not thinking about it.
Very cool. Okay, so how do you do that? Let's say we're filming a 10-minute episode. Is it practice?
A lot of it's practice. I feel like there are going to definitely be moments where you lapse and you forget and you get comfortable, and that's okay. I think it's more appropriate to be in your natural mannerisms and body language in video, even if it sacrifices a little bit of that perfect head and neck position, just because that's what matters. People aren't paying attention to my neck when I'm talking to you.
Well, I could just get into the perfect and then just freeze. I don't even know if that looked good.
Maybe not quite so perfect. Looked good from my angle, we'll say that.
Okay, so the last point we wanted to talk about was facial expression and laughing. Now, we're talking specifically about photography here. Mm-hmm. When we worked together, you would laugh to get me to laugh. What's that about?
Okay, so when I'm taking a picture of you and I get you in this perfect pose, your head and neck is exactly right, the last thing I need to do is to get you to connect with me in your expression. And if I tell you to just give me a little smile, maybe you're already really good at giving me fake, not fake, really engaged smiles. And that's perfect and easy. But most people who come to me are not super comfortable in front of the camera, so they're not going to be like perfectly smiley. They're going to have a little, whether it's like the scared eyes or the tight mouth or whatever it is. And so the best way I found to get people to connect with me through the camera is to tell them, just relax your expression and let me engage that smile from you. So what I do is I provide a visual, most people, it's a visual mirror. So when I look at you like this, like really connected and engaged, you naturally look back at me the same way. And so I teach people that, and I say, this is how I want you to look at me. You're doing it exactly right. And it's a little bit tricky when I hide my face to keep that mirror up, or now that you don't have that visual mirror, it's hard to keep the expression up, right? So what I do is I have my camera up and I give you an audible mirror. So I just will chuckle a little bit behind the lens, And that is a trick you can actually take and apply to yourself. You don't need me there to chuckle for yourself. So you can be having anybody take your picture, you could be doing a selfie, a group shot, and you just give yourself a little chuckle. And that, even if it's fake, in the moment you do it, usually translates to really laughing at yourself because you feel a little self-conscious and silly. It also translates, if you're in a group shot, to everybody starting to laugh around you, which everyone's expressions then are going to look so much more connected and real and believable and happy and pleasant and all of that.
Thanks, Emily. Appreciate you joining me on this episode on how to look better on camera. If you want more episodes like this, give it a thumbs up both on YouTube and on LinkedIn. We'll see you in the next episode.